As you all know, this is the session on our fifth module, which is on leadership skills. We all know leadership skills are very, very important. There was a time when people thought that there are only a few leaders and all others are followers. But that's not the thing. That's not the case. Times have changed, mindsets have changed, and attitudes have changed. Today, we have leaders everywhere. We all are leaders. And we don't have just one leader and many followers. We all are leaders today. We are leading in some way or the other. We are creating an impact on the lives of others in some way or the other. We are influencing people around us in some way or the other. So we are doing a lot of things. There's something called 360-degree leadership. And that's exactly what we are doing today. We are creating an impact from all the sides. But leadership is a skill that needs to be both developed and enhanced. In order to be good leaders, in order to be great leaders, we have to do a few things consciously so that we not only enhance our abilities, enhance our leadership skills, but also create an impact on the lives of others. Because leadership is all about doing things that will change the course of others' lives in a positive manner. So in this session, I'll walk you through the world of leadership briefly, just to give a recap of the things that I talked about in that module, in the lecture videos, so that you get a recap of the most important things related to leadership skills. And then we'll go for your queries, your questions, and your comments, your observations, and your suggestions, of course. So please allow me some time so that I can talk about the most important leadership skills briefly, and thereafter we'll start our discussion. You all know leadership skills are very, very important, crucial to our success, both professionally and personally. There are a few leadership skills that I have categorized as top leadership skills. They are top leadership skills. That means in order to be a good leader, I need to imbibe, I need to acquire and enhance some of these important leadership skills. If you can recall, I start by saying communication is the most important leadership skill. Communication is, in fact, the most important life skill because it allows and helps us seamlessly move across different situations in life, all challenging and demanding and stretching situations in life. Communication is important because with communication, with proper communication, we can achieve clarity of thought and expression. Clarity is very, very important. If I do not convey my message clearly to you, and if I fail to make you understand my message clearly, that means I have some clarity issues. How do you check you have clarity issues? If you notice that whenever you say something, you present something, you explain something, people interrupt you to ask you, what did you mean by that? Can you please clarify? So this word clarify will mean that there is some clarity issue. The listener or the reader is unable to understand or follow you. When that is the case, you promptly understand that you have some clarity issues, and then you need to work on your clarity quotient and make it happen. The second is, which is very closely associated with clarity, is explaining. If I can explain my ideas clearly, concisely, that means I shouldn't take 2 hours, 2 days to explain a question or a doubt. If I can explain my ideas, my thoughts clearly and concisely, then I have that power. Comforting. Communication is not only about sending information or receiving information. It is about creating that comfortable environment so that I can make others feel comfortable. And regularity is very important when it comes to communication. Imagine we are working in a certain situation, in a certain scenario, and then I communicate something to somebody on one day, and thereafter there is no communication for a considerable period. So that will lead to the breaking of communication. Communication is characterized by an element of regularity, following up with the other person. Otherwise, there'll be a communication break. And then communication has to be empathic. That means while communicating, I need to understand the perspective of others as well. It's not that I'm communicating, therefore I'm important. No, I'm communicating to somebody, therefore that person is also no less important. That means they're also equally important to us. So these are the most important principles of communication. And then I also talked about the second most or top leadership skill, motivation. Most often we give into extrinsic motivation. There is a reward, we work. There is no reward, we don't work. We have grown up in this manner because whenever we did homework, we were rewarded by our parents. Our parents used to tell us, we'll allow you to watch television for 30 minutes or 1 hour if you finish your homework. If you do this, I'll give you that. If you do this, I'll also reward you in that manner. So we have grown up in that manner. And that has taught us the extrinsic motivation. That means whenever there is a reward, we work. Otherwise, we don't work. When our work is based on rewards, it will be cut short after the reward is given to us. But when the motivation is intrinsic, it comes out. There is no question of reward because there is a bigger reward that is awaiting us. And that's the reason why we work for that big moment, for that ultimate moment. And that's the reward for us. So we need to put a lot of energy, hard work, and a lot of dedication to get that reward. So intrinsic motivation is one type of motivation which comes from within, and then it takes us far. If I tell myself, every month I'm going to check whether I'm growing or not, whether I'm learning something new or not, that will give me an intrinsic motivation. Yes, in order to know that I'm growing, I must do something, I must learn something new, and I'll do that. Delegating. There are occasions when people think that if I delegate my responsibilities to somebody, I will be treated as weak, as a weak leader. Therefore, I'm delegating. No, delegating is an act of building trust. If I delegate my responsibility to one of my colleagues and the colleague tells me, no, I don't think I'll be able to do this. And if I make the colleague believe in himself or herself, then I'm doing it well. So delegating is very, very important. I must have the trust in my friends, my colleagues, and people around me. And if I think they are not capable of doing it or they cannot do it properly, I can train them. And thereafter, I can delegate my responsibilities. So delegating is important to leadership. Positivity, we all know. Positivity. By saying positivity, I'm not denying the presence or the existence of negativity in our life. When we are thinking of positivity, we're also thinking of negativity simultaneously. But positivity is all about overcoming the negativity in our lives. So by building a rapport, by extending a helping hand, by showing our care for others, and by respecting people around us, we can always exert an aura of positivity. You might have heard about it. that people say, I don't want to be in the company of that person because that person gives me negative vibes. So, what are these vibes? Energy fields, either positive vibes or negative vibes. So, it's quite human, it's quite natural that whenever we receive positive vibes from somebody, we feel comfortable in their company. And whenever we receive negative vibes from somebody, we don't like to meet and interact with those people. So positivity is very, very important. If I send positivity, I'll receive positivity. Then trustworthiness, there is nothing like that. I have to develop trustworthiness so that people can trust me. I must make myself accountable. If I fail, I must take the blame. Yes, I failed, therefore the blame is only mine, nobody else's. I must learn how to apologize. It's very easier said than done. Apologizing is not easy. Whenever we do something wrong, we must gather that courage to apologize. And then reliability, integrity, credibility, these are the important skills that will make us more trustworthy. And we will develop or enhance our leadership skills that way. Creativity is very important. Leaders can quickly find a creative solution to a problem because creativity is important. Whenever we are faced with a unique challenge, it is our creativity that will help us, not the critical thinking. We can critically understand that situation, but we will not be able to find a solution if we do not have creativity to that. So creativity is everywhere. For example, in a cricket match, a bowler is bowling at an unplayable pace or speed. So the batsman has to do something creative to score runs by playing shots against that bowler. So the batsmen do that. They have improvised, they have invented different types of shots to score runs. The switch shot, Kevin Pietersen of England, he invented that switch shot and he scored a lot of runs. So that is creativity. So we find a solution to an immediate problem. In order to be creative, or in order to enhance creativity in ourselves, we need to develop curiosity. The problem is, as we grow, we become less curious. You can go back to your childhood days and you can recall how curious you were. You are far more curious than what you are today. So we need to be curious, imaginative, and innovative, to be creative. And then flexibility, which is very, very important. We all know metals that are malleable, that can bend easily, can stand the toughest pressures. Metals that are not malleable, they're very hard, they will break. Similarly, if we are not flexible, we cannot accept change. We'll be very, very rigid about it. So flexibility is very, very important. So these are some of the important leadership skills I talked about in this module. And then I also talked about self-development and a growth mindset. And then the growth mindset is pitted against the fixed mindset. So a growth mindset will mean that we'll not mind going for new challenges, new experiences, meeting new people, learning from them, interacting with them, and developing new insights. That's growth mindset. We're always looking at the growth side. Even a little amount of growth can also be great. On the other hand, fixed mindset means we're not growing. We are, experiencing the condition of inertia. We're not moving, we're not growing, we're not doing anything. I also talked about the entrepreneurial mindset, if you remember, because entrepreneurs have that power of resilience. They're very innovative. They're good at planning, and then they are very, very good at convincing others or influencing others. So this entrepreneurial mindset will help us a lot. And then I also talked about how we can go for stress management if we have to be good leaders. So There are people who are, very fussy about, or they're obsessed with perfection. We need to remember that perfection is probably or once a lifetime happening. So not everything can be perfected, but everything can be done in a certain or a decent manner. So that should be the focus of great leaders, not the perfection. Just imagine if somebody thinks the day I begin to speak English fluently, I'll begin to speak. The day I learn how to swim, I'll begin to swim. Is that possible? That is not possible. In order to be good at swimming or perfect at swimming, you need to start swimming. So similarly, without delaying, we can do things instead of getting into the perfection fixation. We can always do that. We can think of taking regular breaks, that 1 minute vacation, which is very, very helpful. There is nothing wrong in seeking help from others. Whenever we are in trouble, we can seek help from others. There's nothing wrong. We are not losing our face. We are not losing our dignity or respect. So these are some of the ways through which we can manage our stress, because stress is bound to happen to us when we are working professionally. And then I also talked about resilience, which is a very powerful skill, leadership skill. Resilience, that means the power to bounce back after taking a blow from the blues. So if we have that power to bounce back, then we know we are great leaders, or we have leadership skills. So if you have a survivor mindset, that means you can survive in any situation, in any condition. If you have that power to regulate your emotion, if you can control yourself, if you have self-compassion, that means you love yourself, you never blame yourself. If you have your social support system, that includes your family, your friends, and others around you, then those are the signs of resilience. Then you are quite resilient. So it's very important for somebody to develop resilience in order to be great leaders. For a good leader, it's important to develop a team, because we are living in the era of collaboration or collaborative working or team working. We cannot imagine that we are going to do everything on our own. It is impossible. We can do things to a certain extent, but we cannot go beyond that. Therefore, we need to discover the value of team working. And for that, we need to develop great teams. If you remember, I cited the example of Bruce Tucker and the framework that has been given by Tucker when it comes to building teams. Why do we build teams? What are the benefits of teams? I also talked about these things. We can expect better problem solving when we are working in a team. We can develop great potential for innovation. We can also ensure each other's well-being, because if somebody is feeling low, there are many others who can come forward and extend support to that person, both psychological and social support. And that will also mean we'll go for less burnout, because the pressure will be divided. Both psychological and physical pressure will be equally shared by the team members. So less burnout will happen. And then personal growth can also happen, because each team member will contribute to each other's growth. So that will lead to personal growth as well. And then I talked about Bruce Tuckman's framework for team development, how we can develop or build a team at different stages. If you can recall, forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. I talked about all these things. So, and then I took you through the world of strategic thinking while telling how important it is for us to be good at strategic thinking so that we can be good leaders. So we can, go for prediction powers, visualization powers, and then we can think through backup plans or plan B thinking. And then we can always consider our past experience to, develop logical thinking or outside the box or out of the box thinking, to be good at strategic thinking. And then I also talked about planning and delivery by citing the example of that great story. When was the last time you sharpened your axe? Sharpening the axe story, if you can recall that. And if you can also recall Abraham Lincoln's famous saying, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. So sharpening the axe is in fact an example of planning for that action. So that big task. So we need to spend some time planning for that task. But there are occasions in life when we do not have time for planning. But if we have been planning, that means we know how to do it. So while planning, we know how to execute it. We are familiar with the different stages of some work, some task. So whenever we do things without planning, that actually happens in a planned manner because we are familiar with the planning strategies. So the sharpening of the axe story tells us a lot of things about planning. And I also talked about the different phases and components of planning. We can ask ourselves certain questions. Where are we now? Where do we want to go? So for example, when you decided to join this course, you could have asked yourself, where am I now in terms of life skills? So these are the things I know about life skills. Then where do I want to go in terms of life skills? Then you are fixing your objectives. And then you're asking, how do I go there or get there when it comes to life skills? So we are starting with analysis, where we are now, and then we are going to the next stage, that is vision stage. Where do I want to go? And then we go to the key goals stage, and we come to the action planning stage. So your vision and your goals or your objectives, and then action planning. In order to actualize those objectives, we need to go for some action planning. So we'll act accordingly. So that is the pyramidal structure of planning. And then I also talked about persuasion and influencing. This is the era of influencing. You might have heard about social media influencers, how powerful those people are. They say something and it goes viral. People believe in what they say. That's the kind of credibility they have established because they can easily persuade and influence people. But then when it comes to persuading, we need to avoid a few things. We should not be nagging. We should not be applying coercion, force upon somebody to persuade them. And then we should not be doing various other, fussy things to discourage people. In this video lecture, I talked about the 10 obstacles to persuasion or successful persuasion proposed by Kurt Mortensen in his book Persuasion IQ. If you can recall those 10 skills. For example, if I continue to think that I'm better, others are very bad or poor, then it will be very difficult for me to persuade them, or it'll be difficult for me to hone my skills. Or trying hard to persuade will not help. Talking too much to persuade will not help. Say just one thing, people will be convinced. So that's the power of persuasion. While talking about influencing, I talked about the three different tactics that we can employ to influence people. The head tactics, that is logical influencing. The heart tactics, emotional influencing. The hands tactics, cooperative influencing. So by extending a helping hand, and this is how we can persuade or influence people. So you might have taken a look at this hard tactics and soft tactics. So request is an example of hard tactic, and then inspirational appeals is an example of soft tactics. So when we apply soft tactics to influence people, we are actually focused on them, on people. When we are applying hard tactics to influence others, we are more focused on ourselves. So requesting is a hard tactic that way. So these are some of the tactics that I talked about in one of these video lectures. Um, and finally, towards the end of this module, I talked about a very important leadership skill, change leadership. I started by quoting a very famous statement from or by Alvin Toffler. The illiterates of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So we need to develop that kind of flexibility for change, because change is imminent. It will happen whether or not we accept it. It will happen. If we do not accept change, we'll fall behind others. Others will move forward. So change leadership is very, very important, because change is going to happen in any case. We cannot avoid that. So it's better that we learn how to accept change, how to create an environment of change so that things improve over time. So that's the reason why I talked about different change styles. If you remember, I talked about conserver change style, originator change style, and pragmatist change style. And then I also talked about a very interesting model that comes to us as the ADKAR model of change. A stands for awareness of the need for change. D stands for the desire to participate and support the change. K stands for knowledge on how to change. And A stands for ability to implement required skills and behaviors for that change. And finally, R stands for reinforcement to sustain the change. So the ADKAR model proposed by Jeff Hyatt, the founder of the Change Management Consulting and Research Group, Prashi, he has proposed this model, and it's very popular and very effective model when it comes to change management. So that is how I summed up this module, and that is how I also sum up this session. So we can now take your comments, your queries, and your questions. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me. I'll be happy to take your questions now. You can also post your queries and questions in the chat box so that I can take them and respond to them. So if you want to ask anything, you can unmute yourself and then.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Sir, as you have talked about the motivation today,
Right.
I have one question that in a class or in a family, there are students, there are children, as in a family, we can see everywhere there are people.
Yes.
So in a family, if parents are giving an external motivation in the form of some cash, rewards, gadgets, is it good to give them always, or it can have a negative impact on them? Because internal motivation will come within from me that I don't want any kind of reward, any kind of physical things. But as a parents, when they are giving to the child, is it good? It will impact them in future, or let it be okay, let us give them the things that they want?
Motivation actually works both ways, but that's a very interesting question, of course. Motivation works both ways. The external or extrinsic motivation is important. I don't want to say that it's not important, because We write an exam because we want good grades. We write a competitive exam because we want a job offer. So external or extrinsic motivation is important. But extrinsic motivation is short-lived because it is focused on an immediate gain. So once we have it, the motivation will drop immediately. So if I get good grades, the motivation will go down because that's what I worked for. On the other hand, intrinsic motivation that comes from within. I need to do a certain thing to be good, to be acceptable, to be famous, to be popular, to be important. So this is the kind of motivation that is goal oriented. So goal is a long term thing, and in comparison to objectives. Objectives. So extrinsic motivations are objective oriented. So we are achieving something in quick time. But goals are driven by intrinsic motivations. For example, if somebody believes from an early age that one has to become a doctor, if that turns out to be an intrinsic motivation, then the person actually harbors that motivation for a long time. The person may take a long time to become a doctor. So if somebody wants to be a cricketer, you might have listened to interviews by cricketers who have confessed to the fact that they always wanted to be a cricketer like their idols. I have heard Virat Kohli saying when he was a young guy, he always wanted to be a cricketer because he liked and loved Sachin Tendulkar. So he saw him or watched him playing cricket, and that's how he always wanted to become a cricketer. So that is his intrinsic motivation. See, he wants to become a cricketer after 5 years or 10 years. So this person will prepare oneself. So if I want to succeed as a communicator, if I want to be good at communication, then I need to invest systematically for a long period so that I can actually become a good communicator. So either ways, both extrinsic and intrinsic motivations are very, very good. What I mean to say is we need to practice them simultaneously together so that somebody doesn't become obsessed with extrinsic motivation only. But that is the idea. Thank you.
The one more question I want to ask you is that you said that we are not those who cannot read and write, but we are those who can't learn and relearn. So by the learn and relearn, what do you mean by that? We are not those who cannot read and write, but we are the one who cannot learn and relearn. What that means
Yes.
is.
According to the futurist, American futurist Alvin Toffler, the illiterates of the 21st century are those people who cannot, are not those people who cannot read or write. Okay. But those people who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. You know how rapidly things are changing around us. We cannot even imagine the pace at which things are changing around us. Every day we are getting to know something new, something exciting, something big. And if I think that I will continue to succeed with one type of skill, I will be mistaken. I cannot say that with the kind of skills I'm succeeding today will take me long, and I don't have to add anything new to my skills, or I have to rethink my skills and acquire new skills in the place of the skills that I have today. I will be mistaken because things will change so fast. I cannot even imagine if I cannot, catch up with the speed or the pace of changing times. I will fall far behind. So when it comes to learning, so this is a learning course, learning new things. there must be at least 50% of the things that most of you must have come across for the first time. Um, for example, Carol Ripp's model, or this Adkar model, change leadership model, various things that we learn for the first time. And most of you wouldn't believe that I also learned a lot of things while designing this course and making this course happen. I learned a whole lot of things, the things that I never knew about. So it was a discovery, self-discovery for me. So I added those new things to me. So I unlearned some of my old things and I relearned some of the new things. So this is the era of uncertainty and volatility. Things are very, very uncertain. I cannot determine what's going to happen tomorrow to me, my profession, my position. So I may be required to do something else. So that's the reason why we need to learn, unlearn. That means we can forget a part of it or the entire thing, and then learn something new. So that way we'll always be uh, in touch with time. Will not be falling behind. So that's the idea. So thank you for your question.
Thank you, sir.
I can take a few questions. Yes, from the chat box now. Is speaking reason of fumbling? How do I stop words from stumbling when I talk? Okay, that's quite interesting, Sheetal. Um, Not really. There are people who can speak very, very fast, yet they never stumble. But I believe uh, it should not be very slow and very fast. If we speak very, very fast, people will not be able to follow us. At least a large number of people will not be able to follow us. If we speak very slow, people will be disinterested. They'll lose that connection with us. So it has to be of a certain speed that people can easily follow, and people will not feel disconnected. So speed, of course, it leads to fumbling, because most often we may not be able to maintain um, or match the words with the pace. So there may be a mismatch. So speed will lead to fumbling. Unless somebody is very, very good at speaking, it will definitely lead to fumbling. So one can slow down a little and speak well. When we know we have leadership skills, is a question by Abhishek Pandey. Yes, Abhishek, when you feel that, or when you know that people are trusting you, people are depending on you, people are appreciating you, they are acknowledging your work, people are treating you as credible, people are spending time with you. They love to spend time with you because you are sending positive vibes. And when people approach you with problems to find a solution from you, then you know you are developing leadership skills. People are looking up to you with some expectation. Yes, so there is a question
Sir,
from.
I am agree. Agree.
Thank you. There's a question by Matabel. I don't know whether I pronounced that name correctly or not. If I'm wrong, please correct me, Matabel. Um, why do people resist change? You talked, that's one. Of course, not many people want change to happen because, with change, we have to change ourselves. You might have seen professors carrying their very notes from their ancient days, ancient times, the same notes. They used to teach batches after batches. The reason is they don't want any change in the curriculum, because once the curriculum is changed, they will have to change the notes. Simple. We do not want a change to happen, or we resist change, because with change, we'll have to change ourselves and we'll have to adapt to the demands of the change, which requires us to do certain things, to spend energy, time, and do new things to match up or to catch up with the changing times. And that's one big reason why many people resist change. The second question is, you talked about the importance of teamwork. How do you reconcile this with the importance of personal branding and be unique? Of course, teamwork doesn't mean you lose yourself, your uniqueness. Teamwork is all about helping each other enhance uniqueness. So when you look at a cricket team, you'll see that each of the members has a certain unique presence in that team, and that's the reason why the player is in the playing 11 or the final team. Each member has a unique presence, and each member's uniqueness is not compromised with. In fact, a team allows each of the members to grow individually as well and to enhance that uniqueness. But at the same time, I would like to say that if a team is trying to kill the uniqueness of an individual, then that is not a team. That's not a good team, because the individual will ultimately be a part of the team, and the individual will be lost in the team identity. So that will not be a good idea. And then there's the third question. What are the disadvantages of autopiloting? Autopiloting, that means you're not in connection with yourself. You're just making things happen mechanically. Just imagine when we begin to maintain a routine life or mechanical life, there is no interest, there is no excitement, and there is no need to do anything new or learn anything new, know anything new. You just allow things to happen to you. That's mechanical, too automatic. So that is it. There is no interest in life. There is no excitement in life. So if when you know that your everyday is passing in the same manner, every next day is passing as it happened the previous day, then you know you're living life on the autopilot. So there is no excitement, there is no interest, there is nothing new. You just allow everything to happen in a routine manner. So you become a routine or a timetable in yourself, or mechanical thing in yourself. So that is it. So these are the disadvantages of autopiloting. So nothing new. You cannot think about anything new. You cannot, add to yourself. You cannot go for self-development or growth, personal growth. Nothing will happen. You'll be the same person as you were some time back. And then, yes, there is a question in the chat box. Which obstacles prevent me from feeling motivated? The biggest obstacle is the lack of a goal. The lack of a goal. When this course was in fact planned, it was planned with a goal. The goal was to, bring up things that are of great importance, and to talk about those life skills that can, change the lives of people, that can help people grow and flow. So that was the goal of this course. And when we set the goal of this course, then we worked towards that. Then we automatically got motivation. then we started working towards that goal. We planned, we designed which things to include and which things we cannot include. Then we went for the storyboarding, the video recordings, the content, and then we edited the videos, everything followed thereafter. So if I do not have a goal, I'll not feel motivated, never. So if I have a reward, I'll be motivated. If I have a goal, because I never
नहीं
knew.
बोल रही है नहीं बोल रही है नहीं
So
नहीं
so I never knew what will happen to this course. But I just had a goal, therefore we felt motivated. So that is it. So we need to find a goal for ourselves. It can be a short-term or a long-term goal, but we have to have a goal in life. When we fail to do our childhood dream, then what I do? Yes, that's a very hard reality, because not all our dreams are realized or fulfilled. Some of them are not fulfilled, and we probably failed our childhood dreams. But then dreams can be expanded. Dreams can be extended. We can have new dreams as well. And then we can also make something our dream. It's not really necessary that we had dreamt of it. I can cite my example, if you allow me. I never wanted to become a teacher. Until my master's program, I did not want to become a teacher. I wanted to get into something else but teaching. So it came to me accidentally. I never wanted to become a teacher. It just happened to me. I landed as a teacher. But then when I knew that I have become a teacher, then I wanted to embrace this profession, embrace this beautiful, wonderful profession, this job. Then I motivated myself. Then I wanted to do things for it. Then I made this job my dream, and I made things for it. So it's not really necessary that we'll always have our dreams fulfilled. Sometimes we may have something given to us, and we can turn that into our dream. So that is the thing. So you can think of turning something that you're doing currently into your dream, and you can do it wonderfully well. And maybe at a later stage, like me, you can say, yes, I've done fairly well. So that's the idea. What work environment or company culture keeps you motivated? That's very,
Sir,
very
how
important.
can we change our goal?
There is no need to change your goal before you give it a try. There is absolutely no need to change your goal, because if you change your goal, you'll be shifting from one to the other, and that way you'll be wandering. So if I have a goal, I must give myself a chance to pursue that goal. And thereafter, I can decide whether I can continue with that goal or not. So there is no need to change any goal. We can change our goal only when we are convinced that this goal is not right. We picked the wrong goal once we are convinced of it. So in order to be convinced, we need to move a few steps towards the goal so that we can discover what is wrong with it. So that's the idea. What work environment or company culture that keeps you motivated is another question in the chat box. So, of course, this is very, very important. And this is one big reason why modern day or contemporary organizations are creating a family-like environment for their employees, because they know the challenges coming from burnout, because burnout is a major challenge in the world in the corporate world, in the world of business. People are growing old very, very fast, and they're losing energy and excitement in the later half of their life, and that's what is seriously hurting the productivity of an organization. So the organizations are now giving a family-like environment to their employees. Now, you might have heard about how these organizations are also offering their employees to go on a paid vacation along with their family so that you can spend some time, refresh yourself, and come back and contribute nicely to the organization. So, the work environment or the company culture has to be very, very conducive. It must make you feel, it's almost like you imagine your childhood days. Uh, if you liked your school, if you loved your school, you wanted to go to your school every day. Otherwise, those students, those children who do not like or love their school, every morning they would say, no, I do not want to go to school. They would begin to cry. Similarly, if you love your office, you will feel like going there. So that kind of culture, that kind of environment a company or organization has to create for its employees so that you feel comfortable. The same kind of feeling you get when you are at home along with your family members, that kind of feeling. There's a question from TK Rao in the chat box. Thank you, Professor. Do we have to adapt to all changes because change sometimes can be unnecessary or useful? Very true. We need not adapt to all changes. And that's the reason why, this module follows from critical thinking skills or thinking skills module. So with the power of critical thinking skills, we can always go for a better judgment. So with thinking, we can judge whether something is good for us or not. Once we are convinced, we can accept that change. So not all changes are necessary or required for us to adapt or adopt. We can always take a call on the changes that are happening around us by approaching the changes critically. That can help. There is a question from Tania. I have a question that how to stay motivated all the time. It will be difficult to stay motivated all the time because this mind, this brain has its own downs as well. There are occasions when we do not want to feel motivated. We do not want to do things. We do not want to even think about things. So those are the times when we are absolutely demotivated to do things because we're not doing things. But as I told you, if you allow your goal to disturb you, if you allow your goal to poke you, because that's the kind of energy. When somebody pokes us, we feel angry, and we suddenly feel that energy to retaliate, to give an answer to that poking object. Similarly, if we allow our dream, our goal to poke us, to disturb us, then it will probably keep us motivated all the time. For example, if I have set myself a certain goal, and if I allow that goal to disturb me every day, you don't have that power. You cannot do it. You're not good at this. If that goal disturbs me every day, then I will feel motivated and stay motivated. No, you cannot challenge me that way. Let me show you what I'm up to. So that kind of thing will happen to us. And then there is a question from Dr. Ankita. Suppose you're not a leader, but you have a quality of a leader, then how can you explain your ideas in team? You should explain or not if you're not agree with your leader's decision. Of course, there is nothing wrong in doing that. I'll cite an example of that. You must have heard about Apple, the famous Apple and Microsoft controversy. There was a time when Microsoft was ruling the world, the globe. But with the advent of Apple, with the emergence of Apple, Microsoft had a very tough challenge. And there was a time when Apple actually took over Microsoft, and Apple became the #1 brand in that particular segment. And one day, the Apple, executives were discussing. This Microsoft executives were discussing possible ways to counter Apple's emergence as a tough challenge. And then they were all talking about, throughout the entire discussion, everybody in the team was talking about Apple. So Apple figured in everyone's talk. There was just one guy who was sitting quietly listening to all others speak. And this guy suddenly stopped others and said, what is Apple? So it's not that that guy didn't know what Apple was. The guy knew what Apple was, but it was a wonderful disruption. That guy said, what is Apple? And everyone was shocked. Everyone thought probably this guy is a dumb fellow not to know what Apple is. So they looked at that guy with shock. But the whole idea, but there was the leader who promptly understood that what this guy was trying to suggest. This guy suggested, why are we talking about Apple? We should be talking about Microsoft, because that's our organization. We're not talking about Apple. So let's focus on Microsoft, not on Apple. So that was the idea. So, we can always differ. Differing doesn't mean we'll end up criticizing, humiliating, or embarrassing others. Differing means we can come up with a very logical, credible idea when we differ. So that's how we can do it. We may not agree with our leader, we may not agree with the team leader or the other members. We can always say, this is what I think, but there is no need to enter into any conflict or fight to prove oneself right. That's the only thing we need to avoid. So I think I answered your question, Dr. Ankita. What do you do with your spare time at work? My goodness. Yes, so, I find new goals to keep me motivated. While I'm talking to you, I'm already thinking about my next goal, what I would be or I should be doing to, get a chance to interact with people like you. So I'm basically a people's person. That's my food, so I love the company of people. I love to interact with them. Learning from them is something that I'm really excited about. So I'm already thinking about my new course, which I'll be designing. I have already designed that course, and I'll be offering that course very, very soon. So that's what I'm doing. In my spare time, I do, of course. I mean, when I, want to spend some time when I'm not doing anything, it may be music, watching movies, various other things that will just keep me cool and give me energy for my next task. Yes, so there is a question from Kashish. Yes, I do have a question that what strategies should be accepted when we feel subdued or dejected as we are unable to cope with the failures when struggling for the same goal most of the time? Of course, that's a very difficult challenge. I can understand that, because when somebody begins to fail repeatedly, that can devastate the person and the person's psychological state. That's very, very devastating, or very difficult for somebody to even accept. The only thing that can help such a person in such a scenario situation is to tell oneself that this is not the end of the world, because we are living in a world where people have failed repeatedly. They have failed repeatedly. There are so many examples around us. They failed repeatedly, and they have shown the courage to come back, bounce back in life. So there is a skill that we all need to develop in ourselves. It is called resilience. Resilience is one skill that can be, cultivated in oneself to be able to, stand strong in such situations. So failing is something that we cannot determine or change, but learning to overcome, learning to cope with failures is something that we can do that. So that way we can do it. Resilience is the answer to this particular problem, this particular challenge. In fact, I can tell you, I have designed a course that is called Literature and Coping Skills. In that course, we teach how, with the help of certain literary texts, we can develop great coping skills, so that we, uh, I'm sorry, so that we can take up life's challenges um, quite successfully. So resilience is one such skill. How have you handled a situation where you felt less inspired at work? Whenever I'm less inspired, if that goal is important to me, then there may be occasions when I'm less inspired. There may be a day when I don't feel like working. So if I don't feel like working, I shouldn't work. Simple. I do not work. I just free myself from the burden of that goal. I say, fine, that goal is fine, but I'm not feeling like working for a couple of days, for a week, for a month even. I'm feeling like doing something else. No issues. So if I'm not feeling like working, I should not strain myself. I don't do that. I don't strain myself. I just leave it aside, then give myself some chance. Then I, entertain myself, spend some time, and then think about it. And that's the time when I'm also focused on that particular goal. And then I rediscover my energy. I come back to it. So that is how I re-inspire myself. Oh yes, Mr. Rao, unlearning is not easy. It's not easy, of course. It's almost like, writing something on a slate and then erasing it completely. So it's not that easy, of course. But then there are occasions when we need to unlearn certain things. So I'll give you an example of that. Long back, when there was a time when people believed in a geocentric system. They say that the Earth is at the center of this universe, and Sun and other planets are, revolving around it. People believed in that system. Then, scientists came up, Galileo, Copernicus, they all came up and they refuted that claim. They said, no, this is wrong. It's not a geocentric system, it's a solar centric system. It took people by shock. But then people learned how to unlearn their past learning. And then they learned a new thing. So unlearning actually helps at times. We may have some wrong information. We may have some incomplete information. We may have a piece of information that becomes outdated after a certain time. So we need to. So you can speak to any computer science guy. They will tell you how unlearning is so crucial for them. Because if you remember, when we first came in contact with computers, that was a time when people learned the COBOL language. There were other languages as well. I may not be able to recall them. COBOL language, and then C++, Java. Now people have forgotten those languages because most of those languages are of no use in the world of computers. They are learning new languages now. So a computer science guy will learn a new language in quick succession. Otherwise, this guy will be outdated. So unlearning helps in those situations. So it's quite helpful. Florence, thank you for that compliment. It's very encouraging because whenever we receive such encouraging responses from people like you, we feel motivated, of course. We feel motivated to come up and design new courses through which we can interact, get in touch with you. Uh, yes, maybe very soon, maybe in another 6 months, I'll be ready with my next course. So, of course, we are currently working on the idea of that course. We'll be ready with that. So thank you for your motivation. I'll definitely be working on a new course. There is a doubt raised by Brajendra Dwivedi. What is the importance of eye contact in leadership skill and how to be good in eye contact while knowing this opposite person is overpowering than me? Of course, you're talking about a power situation, a power relation, because eyes also communicate power over others. Look at parents when they just look at their children who are playing some prank or doing a mischief. With a kind of look, the parents are able to control, overpower the children. So eyes also play power. So power play happens through eyes. You're talking about a situation where power play is happening. Okay. So when two eyes are aiming at overpowering each other, it will lead to conflict. There is no doubt about it. So when somebody is trying to overpower you with, glaring eyes, you will have the option of leaving that scenario because it will not lead to anywhere. It will not lead to any positive thing because it will lead to conflict only. That's the time. If you think you can retaliate and you need to go for a conflict so that you can counter the overpowering look or gaze of that person, you can do that. But then it will not lead to any solution. It will lead to problems only, conflict and problems only. So since you are from India, I can cite the example of Lagan, where Bhuban, played by Amir Khan, and Captain Russell, they exchange such overpowering gazes every time they meet. And there is a conflict. So it will always lead to conflict. We we want, this is a suggestion by Abhishek Pandey, so we want a course on self-development. Of course, I will be taking up some of these important skills and to develop a few more courses that are interconnected. Of course, so thank you for this suggestion, Abhishek. I'll be thinking about it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So Bijuna has suggested that while teaching, eye contact is a must. Of course, you're right. But that eye contact is friendly eye contact. It is not intimidating, scaring eye contact or frightening eye contact. That kind of eye contact is absolutely perfect. It's fine. Friendly eye contact. Oh, yes. Mr. Rao, thank you very much for that suggestion. I'll definitely try to offer that course on how life skills enhance employability of students in grad. So that will be a purely demonstrative course. So where I'll show how each of these life skills will help us enhance our employability. Definitely, I'll think about it. And yes, definitely. I'll give it a serious thought and try. Well, do we have more questions? I can take one last question before we end today's live session. One last question. It can be in the chat box as well. Okay, fine. So that means we do not have any further questions. So now I can. Oh yes, there is a question in the chat box. Thank you, Esther. Gratitude to you, sir. Oh my goodness. So thank you for that compliment. It's not a question. It's in fact a compliment. Very motivating, very encouraging. So thank you very much, Esther, for that compliment. I don't know whether I'm a great teacher or not. I'm just trying to be a great learner. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do, so that I can learn new things and pass it on to my friends across the globe. You did not choose your life path, the universe chose it. Of course, sometimes. That's why I told you that sometimes we may not choose our dreams may choose us. So who knows? So before giving it a chance, we should never withdraw. That's the simple principle which I follow in life. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time, your wonderful participation, and very encouraging and motivating words. We are going to, get a lot of from your words and your motivation, and we'll definitely give it a serious thought to bring up courses that will be of interest, that will be of use to you all. So thank you for joining today's module. I'll meet you again tomorrow at the same time. Yes, thank you. So I'll be meeting you again with the last live session for this course. I'll also be talking about some other important things related to certification and other things about this course tomorrow. So when I meet you tomorrow, we'll discuss all these things. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for this session, sir.
You, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for your valuable
Thank you,
time,
sir.
sir.